Hello, everybody. Welcome to SNA on Sundays, Structural Noetic Astrology, the weekly vlog in which I try and share some of my thoughts about astrology and structural noetic astrology in particular. This week, I've been confronted by two themes, really. The first of which has direct relationship to the book I'm writing, and it was inspired during the Kazimi, the exact conjunction of Mercury retrograde with the Sun, just a few days before the new moon last week, in which I made the association between the Sumerian goddess Inanna and her sister, the queen of the Underworld, Ereshkigal, and between the sisters Isis in Egyptian mythology and her sister Nephthys. And I realized that specifically in the story of resurrection of Osiris and the role of both of these goddesses in allowing him to become resurrected, that actually the last planets, the invisible planets, or the elements which I consider to be the structure of the immaterial world, or the astrological representatives of consciousness in the horoscope, that these seven factors are actually related to the ancient ritual practiced by cultures, which you see people like Freddie Silva talk about, and Greg Braden, about how people had these rituals in which they would sometimes take a specific drug which brought them into a catatonic state or a state of almost death, and that they were in a coffin in which they confronted all kinds of aspects of themselves, and when they emerged 3 to 5 days later, that they were completely reborn as an enlightened human, and their lives were changed forever. And these seven factors seem to me very much related to the 7 pieces of clothing which Inanna has to discard as she makes her descent into the underworld. And this inspired me into adding much more material about the place of these rituals in terms of enlightenment and in terms of developing consciousness, and how astrology is related to that. So that was one of the things that I thought was important this week. The other thing had to do with the paradigm with which astrology is understood. A friend of mine wrote an article on Medium about synchronicities, and he observed quite accurately that the reason most people, in science in particular, scoff at astrology is because they're still mired in beliefs of cause and result, cause and effect. The old Newtonian paradigm of reality. And as I wrote about in my articles a couple of years ago in the Mountain Astrology, actually the quantum era in physics is also being mirrored in astrology, with the addition of the black luminaries, which are directly related to aspects of consciousness, and also the discovery of the invisible planets, that is to say, the planets which are not directly visible by the naked eye. And these factors, which are 2 luminaries and 3 planets which have been discovered, and 2 that still need to be discovered, very much relate to the 2 aspects of reality which quantum physics describes, namely that there is a state of particle or solidity or matter, and the other aspect is, of course, the wave function, the non-specific, which becomes specific when consciousness is cast upon it. So we can see that we are all, with this aspect, that we are in a vast universe of unlimited possibilities, unlimited potential, this unified field. And this is directly represented in structural astrology by the symbol of the black sun. And that aspect of the human being, that aspect of consciousness, that universal consciousness with which each person is imbued and born with, and makes it possible for human beings to actually align themselves with this unified field, that aspect is called the black moon. So these this new structure, which structural noetic astrology describes, is incredibly important for the development of the new story, which our culture needs in order to evolve further. Furthermore, that if we look at these two types of reality, two expressions of reality, and we see, okay, we have the 5 physical planets and the 2 visible luminaries, and we have the 2 invisible luminaries and 3 invisible planets, then it stands to reason that there will be 2 more as yet invisible planets discovered, which complete the entire structure. These have been included in the system of structural astrology and are called Persephone and Vulcan. And as these are 2 aspects of reality, it is therefore then logical that each of the physical factors, represented by the Sun up until Saturn, have their invisible counterparts from Uranus up into and including the black sun. And in this way, we have a complete picture of reality and also the energy that is present, that is operating at any given moment. Related to the quantum paradigm, which is slowly gaining precedence over the old cause and effect model, is the idea of the holographic universe. And this is absolutely essential to understand, in my opinion, if you want to know how astrology works. People think of astrology as showing the influence that planets have on us as separate beings here on Earth. But this is not an accurate portrayal of how these energies work. I like the holographic model because it includes the concept that every aspect of reality is a mirror of the other. That is, even the smallest part of a holographic film, when illuminated, will reveal the whole. And this is very much, I like to think, of the way that the individual human consciousness, when illuminated, is related to and can reveal the whole. So these are a couple of thoughts that I wanted to share with you today about structural astrology, and specifically how important it is to integrate these new discoveries that are being made in the noetic sciences into astrology, and see how astrology is able to complement these sciences through its wisdom. Thank you, and see you next week.